See, most conflicts are not so black and white. If they were black and white, there would be no confusion. Even more than people, even more than things, what are we very attached to? Our ideas, our beliefs, our truth, what we think is correct. Somewhere, the little I, the little ego doesn't want to fully surrender, fully let go. We get clear directions. We know clearly what is the wise thing to do. We know what is correct, what is life supporting. Only wisdom gives us our freedom, moves us into a sense of inner freedom, right? This is what he's talking about. Well, wisdom comes through self-awareness, through recognizing what we do and how it doesn't really serve us. Can chant where you are with me. Satyam param Dhimahi. 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 Jai Gurudev. Everybody good? So we're officially done with chapter 1. I mean, as far as the Gita is concerned, but chapter 1 is all of our life. That much we're clear on so far, right? Yes. So let's just go through some of the big points that we might remember. Number 1, the challenge, the problem that Arjuna is going through is what? Moha. Attachment, entanglement. Clear? That is the challenge that is going on. He's conflicted between the mind and the heart. His heart, in front of him are his kin, his friends, his family, his grandfather, granduncle, and teacher, cousins. He does not have two clear enemies. It's not on one side are my friend and on the other side is my foe. That is not his situation. It's one side appears to be a little closer and the other side a little further away, but both are family, friends, colleagues, neighbors, cousins. Correct? See, most conflicts are not so black and white. If they were black and white, there would be no confusion. You would know what to choose. And if we look at our life, everything is like that. It's all in the gray area. Whether it's two choices within the mind or two choices within the heart or the choice between the heart and the mind. Yes? It's not so crystal clear. If it's crystal clear, there would be no question. We wouldn't have the Gita. If the chariot had been brought in front of Duryodhana, he wouldn't have even maybe waited for the conch shells to blow. He would have started shooting. Who knows? Though most likely not, because remember, they have been asked to go to war. They did not initiate the war. And that is signified with, remember, who blew the conch first? The Kauravas, correct? And then Krishna Bhagwan and the Pandava respond to that. That means Arambh, the starting of the war came from the other side. And this In life says a lot. That which is truth, that which is correct, that which is life supporting, they're not going to start the conflict. They're in response to something that is happening. Are we clear? Being centered, being grounded comes as a response to a conflict that is outside. Follow me? So that much is clear. Arjun is not the one who is starting the war, but he has been asked to war. And then he faces a crisis. And we, like him, most of us are averse to conflict, to crisis. But we forget that it's only during the time of crisis, what can happen? The light can come through. That is the opportunity, the window for the greater higher self, something bigger in us to shine through, but we are averse to conflict. And when there is conflict, okay, let's be very clear. Don't make it philosophical. When you're very happy, how deep and how enlightened are you? We're not. No, we become insensitive. We know that, right? This is why Ganesha, the joy, bliss belly, is represented with a cobra around it in alert position. It means stay alert when you're joyful, when you're happy, because if not, we become insensitive. Correct? But when there is a crisis, when we're in trouble, then a little gap opens. Now there's a possibility for us to go inward and to see what we're really made up of and move to something higher and greater. This has to be very clear, okay? If not, we just like, okay, this is terrible. And of course, Arjun is in an extreme situation. He is not trying to decide, should I marry or not? Although that's as extreme as Arjun's situation, going to war. He's not trying to decide, do I start my own business or do I get a job? Do I move to India or do I move to California? Those things are life-threatening to us. This is just a little bit more life-threatening, correct? So he is in an extreme situation, and you have to remember, what did Gurudev call him? A seeker. He's sincere. He's contemplating, he's saying, wait a minute, where have I come? What did I get myself into? What is correct? Should I be doing this, killing my own people or not? He basically has decided he wants to run. He does not want to fight, but then he gives Krishna all the different reasons on why he should not fight. Some are emotional, some are intellectual, some are justifications, some are very altruistic, some sound supreme and wise, some sound logical, correct? He goes through all the different layers of why he should not fight. He made the decision first and then lined it up with all the stories. This is life. Have you noticed that that's what we do? It looks as if we think through first and then we decide, but actually that's not the case. We make a decision, we make a choice, we choose a direction, and then we tell the stories around it, the justifications around it. And the more we are backed into a corner, the more we feel we are conflicted or in crisis within ourselves in trying to make a decision or a choice, the more we do what Arjun is doing. Are we clear? To me, it's very important that we place ourselves in Arjun's situation beyond the fact that he's in an extreme situation. So we can just imagine, empathize the hardship that he's going through. Nonetheless, it is the mind that we all travel through. And the enemy is not really in front of Arjun. Are you clear? Where's the enemy? Point to it? Yes, it's in the antarkarana, between the mind, the thought, and the emotions. Our enemy or our best friend is where? Within us. This is life. right? It's not something that you see that happened 5,000 plus years ago. It's what's going on right now. We are in a battlefield within our own life, within our own journey, within our own choices. And we do exactly what he did, which is justify, reason in some level, support our own thinking, our own ego, our own small-mindedness, and use the outside world to push up that ego. Are we clear? This is very important to recognize. It's very subtle. It's not he's sitting there willingly and trying to do it. How do we know he's doing that? We know based on the response that Lord will give him in about a moment. Yes? Okay. So, moha. Let's talk a little bit about that before we continue. It's very easy to think of attachment in this situation, our family. Just like Arjun is thinking about my great uncle and my teacher and my cousins and my brothers and my neighbors. When it comes to people, it's very easy for us to recognize attachment. Yes? And then attachment to things, my house, my car. Wherever there is possession, there is attachment. The degree of attachment varies. How possessive are you? No, my wife, there's some level of possessiveness in that. It's not just pure love, correct? We are clear about these things, including my children. What happens to what is mine happens to me. You see, you look at parents, they live out their life through their children. They have this idea, okay, I would have loved to have been a doctor, or I want to compete with my neighbor, or I could achieve more, I could be somebody. And then their children don't want to be a doctor, lawyer, or an Indian chief, but they want to be an artist. What happens? What do you mean? You can't make a living out of it. What will the neighbors say? How will this look? They don't overtly outright say it, but what is mine is also a reflection of me. We're not conscious. Our children represent us. And in this case, Arjun is facing death of his kinsmen, his family members. And think this idea through. What is me is mine, and what is mine is me. Each represents what happens to my sense of self, self-worth, self-value, how I feel about myself, how I think I'm important or not, how others view me. If strangers view you as somebody, it's not as good as if those you consider your own view you as somebody. Have you recognized that? Sabashi means like a pat on the back, oh, wow, you are so awesome. If some stranger says, you kind of go, oh, thank you. And your mind says, what do they know? They don't even know me. But if someone knows you, and then they say that, and if you in your mind have decided the person who knows you is themselves a somebody by your standard, and then they say that, then you feel even more. You suddenly go 6 inches taller. Correct? So in this instance, he's saying, I don't want the kingdom. Kill my own people, my own great uncle and my family and my neighbors. Why have the kingdom? Even if you gave me the 3 kingdoms, I wouldn't want it, let alone this earthly kingdom. So he sounds very like a tyagi, someone who is let go everything, who's free of money and fame and fortune. But in actuality, it's all conditional. It sounds like he's free of happiness, but in actuality, it's all conditional. He's saying, I want it all. Kingdom would bring me happiness, and I want the kingdom, and I want to take revenge, and I want to kick those people's booty, but I don't want to kill my own people. That's the other thing to realize. We live through conditions. Our own happiness, our own state of life is determined by if, then. Are you with me? I'm just reviewing this very quickly because it's very important for all of us to remember that we are on a daily basis in a battlefield. Yes, it's all in here. All right. So that's the recap. I will take different. If you have 3 other learnings that you walked away with, if you've been listening to all 3 sessions and you feel like sharing, I had seen a hand up for a moment. Anybody want to share? You can go ahead and say so now. If not, we'll move forward. Anybody? No. Okay. So we're entering chapter 2. We'll watch Gurudev's video for 20 minutes, the first part, and then we'll pause and discuss. Okay? So please listen carefully. Lumala, we'll begin with chapter 2.
Sanjaya uvacha tam tatha kripaya ashrupurnakulekshanam vishidantamidam vakyam uvacha madhusudanaha. Sanjaya said, Shri Krishna then addressed the following words to Arjuna, who was, as mentioned before, overwhelmed with pity, whose eyes were filled with tears and agitated, and who was full of sorrow. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kutastva Kashmalamidam Vishame Samupasthitam Anarya Jushtamaswargyam Akirtikaram Arjuna. Shri Bhagavan said, Arjuna, how has this infatuation overtaken you at this odd hour? It is shunned by noble souls. Neither will it bring heaven nor fame to you. Klaibyam masmagam of partha naitattvayupapadyate kshudram hridaya daurbalyam tyaktvottishta parantapa. Yield not to unmanliness, Arjuna. This does not become you. Shaking off this base faint-heartedness, stand up, O scorcher of enemies.
I mean, we already heard Gurudev, no? He's poking Arjuna's ego, right? On the one hand, he calls him scorcher, like one who can destroy. And on the other hand, he says faint-hearted. The words that Gurudev used, look at how many were there. Reputation, he addresses from every direction, Arjuna's reputation. When is reputation a big lollipop? When you want to feel like you're somebody. Remember, I said earlier, everything sounds like altruistic and all of those things, but really underneath is also a sense of ego. So the response is, what will someone think of me? Oh, look, they will all love you. They will think of this and that. There's courage. They will see you as weak versus brave. What does that address? Again, a small sense of self, ego. Dishonor, fame, position, legacy, ability. These are all the things Krishna says will be impacted if you don't fight. People will think you're weak. They will not see you as courageous. If you win, they will see you as a brave, amazing king. Again and again, what does Krishna offer him? A big sense of identity, small self called ego. But then he's also poking him, like, said, don't do this thing that's unmanly. Now, I don't know exactly what he's referring to, but those of you who know the Mahabharata, in his last year, 14th year, there was a rule when the Pandavas, the 5 brothers, were sent off. Remember that whole story I talked about in the first chapter? When they were sent off, there was a rule. They cannot be found. If they are found in their last year, then the 14 years start all over again. They have to be in the woods, basically. So Arjuna dresses up as a woman. He spends his last year incognito, dressed as a woman, going through whatever he has to go through. And only Krishna and Arjuna, I believe, knew about this. So it looks as if Arjuna is hinting back at that, like, don't be unmanly. Like, dude, Are you still playing that role that you were playing in your last year? Have you forgotten? Did you take that on too seriously? Do you see? That's like imagine you're a warrior in the middle of battle, the conch shell has blown, and then you have your guide, the guru, the divine, Lord Krishna going, oh, come on, you wimp, get up, stand up and fight. What's wrong with you? Are you a sissy? Quote, sissy, without any derogatory sense in it, but you see what I'm saying to you, yes? And he's kind of pointing to that last year when he's walking around dressed as a woman. So he's really addressing Arjun, as Gurudev said, to snap somebody out of this emotional self-pity. Oftentimes, what do? We give like false sympathy. Oh, you poor thing. I'm so sorry. That's terrible. Isn't that what we end up doing? And then that gives them the drug, the pity, the attention seeking, the small ego pumping. And so then they go into it more and they start crying. I don't know, for some of you who know me, you notice, right? Sometimes when they start whimpering and I say, stop it, knock it off. Hey, knock it off. And you'll notice this thing that's going on. Suddenly they're centered and they come back to like this place of, oh, okay, I got it under control. Have you not noticed that? So that's what Arjun's doing. And it really is what you'll notice in life when people are in crisis, when they need to justify doing something that they somewhere in their mind, in their heart, know is not life-serving, life-supporting, then they justify and all the different things that Arjuna is doing. And then they go crying to somebody and say, please help me, please help me. And most people end up saying what? Oh, you poor thing. And that is not what Krishna is doing. It takes really a wise spirit, soul, to suddenly say, hey, to take a firm stick, to love with care and not let you go off in the direction that doesn't serve you. Yes? Okay, continue.
Arjuna uvacha katham bhishmamakam sankhye dronam cha madhusudana yeshubhih pratiyotsyami pujarha varisudana. Arjuna said, how, Krishna, shall I fight Bhishma and Drona with arrows on the battlefield? They are worthy of deepest reverence, O destroyer of foes.
Continuously coming back to, oh, they deserve my respect. They deserve, they're dear, they deserve respect. Arjuna, are you really sure? What are you really saying to me to do? The ego doesn't give up that easily. But Didi, but Guruji, but mom, but dad, don't you notice we start the story right back and then we go into nobody understands me. No, perfectly well, they understand you. They just don't want to hear it and they're not willing to support you. So they take a stick so that the mind doesn't go further down into the dungeon. And this is called tough love, but that's love. This is wisdom. This is what Gurudev means by you need guidance when you're really stuck. And in that state of helplessness, the state that Arjuna is in, it's not about cajoling and coddling. Yes? Keep going.
Guruna hatva hi mahanubhavan shreyo bhoktum bhaikshyamapi haloke hatvarthakamamstu guru nihaiva bunjiya bhogan ruddhira pradigdhan. It is better to live on alms in this world without slaying these noble elders, because even after killing them, we shall after all enjoy only blood-stained pleasures in the form of wealth and sense enjoyments.
I know that Arjuna and Krishna are buddies. They've been hanging out as friends until now, and even till this moment, Arjuna is still perceiving Lord Krishna as a buddy, but maybe wiser, a good wisher, well-wisher. So, but still he respects Lord Krishna. He sees him as, in that sense, an elder, more experienced, more wise. Do you understand what I'm saying? not in physical age, but from that perspective. And still, if you notice, what is he doing? Educating the elder. He's telling him about Lord Krishna. If we do that, then this and this and this will happen. The moment we're backed into a corner is when we start teaching the elders. We start justifying. Our stories become bigger and grander, and we enter the state of logic and rationale as if the other is a dummy. Yes? And so he's still in that same lamenting mode. He's still saying, the other thing you have to notice is Lord Krishna said something very clearly to him. He addressed his reputation, what others will think, his legacy. Did Arjuna respond to what Lord Krishna said? Yes or no? No, he actually just continued his argument. This is how most of us listen in life. We ask for guidance, whether it's from our family members, friends, guru, mentor, whoever, we ask for guidance. And as they're talking, we're already creating the next argument to defend our position. True or false? We already start heading down the road. We're not really listening. We're not looking for guidance. We simply want to defend our position. We are actually trying to convince them to support us. That's exactly what Arjun wants. He wants Lord Krishna to say, oh my God, Arjun, you're absolutely right. This is terrible. There's no point in killing people just for some money and fame and fortune, and getting revenge is not the thing to do. Absolutely. Take your bags, bow and arrow, and go home. He wants Krishna to say that to him. He wants to be validated. And that's why he keeps coming up with arguments. And you see, you look at your own life. When you want something and someone's trying to tell you something, we don't listen. We have our argument ready to go. And that's exactly what Arjun is doing. He just starts with the next thing and the next thing, and Krishna Bhagwan's just standing there. Like if it was one of us, I know if it was me, I would be like, are you listening? That isn't what I said. Respond to what I just said. We would want that. But most people communicate to say what they want to say, not to hear what they're asking for. Right? This is a huge lesson in life, learning to listen, to stay quiet and respond to what's being said. If you've ever sat there in a discussion, especially a meeting, God forbid it's Art of Living related, we start at posters and we end at cooking lessons, because every person's response takes you one step further from where we originated the conversation, right? And that happens the more we're invested, moha, the more we're attached to our idea. Remember, before watching Gurudev's video, I said it's very important that we understand attachment, mamta, moha, beyond just people and things. Even more than people, even more than things, what are we very attached to? Our ideas, our beliefs, our truth, what we think is correct, our ideas that we have somehow, through osmosis, unconsciously picked up along the way. We will defend this tooth and nail. Correct? Even more than our ideas, moha, what are we very attached to? The body. My body is moha. My mother, my father, my son, my teacher, my guru, my car, my house, my belief, my ideology, my religion, my body. Which one is one of the biggest attachment? My body. This is a certain type of moha. Understand this very deeply. Otherwise, the Sankhya, what Gurudev alluded to, right? That we are the spirit, not permanent, impermanence, all of that. You will be thinking, well, how come Krishna Bhagwan is giving this answer? Does Krishna Bhagwan also communicate like Arjun, just waiting to give his answer? That's not the case. Wake up. Are you hearing what I'm saying to you? As you get further into this chapter, If you hear what Gurudev said, Lord Krishna is going to talk about the spirit. How does that make sense with what Arjun is saying? But if you understand that Arjun's plight, biggest crisis is moha, which is our crisis, and you see that more than anything, we are attached to, I am this body, and this is my body. Do you see it's two types of moha? Nod your head, yes or no. This is my body, and I am this body. This is two of the biggest attachments, moha, there is. Arjun does not want to kill the people in front of him because their death is whose death? His death. Death of his ego, death of his recognition, death of his fame and fortune and acknowledgement and recognition and all those kinds of things. He's seeing his own mortality. He's a warrior. Consider this. He is trained to go to war. He has been to many wars. He's 83 years old. Even if he spent the last 14 years in the jungle, he is at war and has been. He has been to many battles. This is not the first time he's going to kill, right? It's not like Dune when he has to kill that guy for the first time in the movie and he goes through all his transformation. He has been killing, but he's never considered his mortality. Haven't you noticed until crisis happen, we feel invincible? You know, if young people come and someone elder says, you know, don't do that, you might fall, or don't do that, you should be careful and plan differently. They look at the older person, the parent, like, what, you crazy? Mom, dad, you guys don't know anything. That's because they haven't yet faced their own mortality, their own sense of self internally, because there's no crisis. Are you understanding this? It's very important to know why the crisis he's in is important, because it's for the first time cracking his doors wide open and saying, wow, what is this? What is death? I might myself die. You know, when we're young, we run, we use a skateboard, we ski, we do extreme sport, we do so many things and we just shake it off because nothing touches that. But once you're touched, then you now start to give advice to everybody else. Are you seeing this? Very, very important, related back to life and this moment. Yes? Continue.
न चैतद्विद्म कतरन्नो गरीयो यद्वा जयेम यदि वा नो जयेयुः यानेव हत्वा न जिजीविषाम तेव स्थिताः प्रमुखे धार्तराष्ट्राः. We do not even know which is preferable for us, to fight or not to fight, nor do we know whether we shall win or whether they will conquer us. Those very sons of Dhritarashtra, killing whom we do not even wish to live, stand in enemy ranks.
Is this like the first time he realized that, oh, we don't know who will win? I mean, this shows you how huge the crisis and the conflict is in him. And this is how little sense we make the obvious. Let me tell you a story. It's completely, in some ways, unrelated, but this is how blind we become. You know, there was a devotee in the Bangalore ashram. She was from Norway. And any chance she had, she would say to Gurudev, I want a child. She really, really wanted a child. And Gurudev would some way or another sort of move her off of it. No, but why not you just stay focused and somehow, you know? And then eventually she went from India back to Norway and she met someone and she ended up having a child. Maybe a year and a half age the child was when I next saw her, you know, in Italy in 2000. And I see her, oh, wow, how are you? You have a baby now. You must be so happy. And she paused, stunned. And she said, Raj, can I tell you the truth? Okay, yes, tell the truth. She goes, oh my God, this baby doesn't sleep. I can't sleep. I have to get up. You have to change diapers. I constantly need to give attention. Every 3 hours, I have to think about food. I'm constantly pumping my breast to put milk in a bottle because and I say to her, well, are you surprised? Didn't you think that would be the case? And her response is, no, I didn't think it would be like that. I was playing with my sister's child and it was so much fun. She was spending half an hour with her sister's child, la la, fun. Probably as soon as the baby cried, she would hand the baby over to the mom. They would change the diaper. They would feed the baby, tap the baby, put the baby to sleep, keep it. She couldn't believe it. A year and a half later, she said, no, you don't know. You have to stay up all the time, constant this and that, and the runny nose, and they cry. She was completely dumbfounded. How obvious is that probably to those of you who are listening? But honestly, she wasn't joking. This is how much we don't want to look at what is in front of us. And Arjuna is kind of, we don't know who's going to win. What's the point? Well, of course we don't know who's going to win. It's called war. Right? Keep reading.
कार्पण्यदोषोपहतः स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्मसम्मूढचेताः यच्छ्रेयस्यान्निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधि मां त्वां प्रपन्नम्. With my very being smitten by the vice of faint-heartedness and my mind puzzled with regard to duty, I beseech you, tell me that which is decidedly good. I am your disciple. Pray, instruct me who have taken refuge in you.
So I'm not 100% sure, but I already told you, Arjuna and Krishna are friends. They grew up together. They hang out together all the time. They go to the movies, they go for pizza, they go for Coke. Occasionally they go and battle, and they are buddies. And of course, Arjuna sees Krishna as a very wise, influence friend in his life. That's it. He does not see Krishna as the enlightened being. Is this clear so far? They are friends. But then perhaps in this verse, we could think that now he's starting to interact with Krishna Bhagavan, maybe not even as the enlightened, but perhaps no longer just in this buddy friends form, but some elevated state. Because he says, I beseech you. I don't know Sanskrit, as you know, but I'm just going by the translation. I beseech you. I surrender to you. I am your disciple. Please tell me what is good and best to do. He's now in that utter state of helplessness, inviting a higher power in. Whether he sees Krishna Bhagavan as the enlightened being or an enlightened person, we don't need to get into for right now. But he is certainly in a state of helplessness. And the lesson to walk away with is only in a state of utter helplessness. Only when both your hands are up. What happens? Do we invite the light in? Do we invite intuition, instinct, greater, higher power, wisdom, the divine source, which is what Gurudev alluded to when we were watching the video. Are we clear? But notice what we do. We immensely struggle to find an answer. Should I do this or should I do that? I'm not sure. Should I move back to India or should I stay back? My family's in India. My brothers are in India. Should I move back to New York? My mom and my brothers are there. Should I stay back in Los Angeles? My job is here. The weather is better. Art of Living Center is here. You go through this back and forth, and then we say, you know what? I really don't know. I'm going to bring in some wisdom. But even then, if you've noticed, oftentimes you'll see people go to Gurudev, ask a question, and if the answer doesn't suit them, if it freaks them out, if they don't want the responsibility, the consequence, then suddenly they say, I'm not sure what he said. Or, I don't know if he knew the whole story. I didn't get to tell him that it's better for me to be in LA because why the weather is important, because my health or some such. Yes or no? We don't really fully let go. We still try to hold on just a little bit. This is the story of Draupadi. You know what I'm talking about. Yes? Anybody not know? No, you do know. Okay. You do not know. So just a quick version. So Draupadi is the wife of Arjuna. And before it was made the decision that they're going to go to war, they had a final meeting and they were gambling, Kauravas and the 5 brothers, the eldest brother of the 5 brothers and Duryodhan are they used to play those games, dice, basically. And in the dice, the uncle of the Kauravas has tricky dice. They're rigged. And so at the end, the elder brother, Yudhishthira, ends up losing the kingdom, the rights to any part of the kingdom. He lost. He gambled it. The 5 brothers, he gambled them, the 4, including himself, and he gambled the wife. Are you with me? He gambled it all away. And so Duryodhan sends his younger brother, Dusashan, and says, go get her. Draupadi, the wife. And she's in her chambers, in her bathrobes and hanging out, about to do a facial and so on. And Dusashan knocks on the door and basically by her hair drags her into court, where everybody's there. The king, the uncle, the guru, the ministers, everybody's there. He drags her in and there's lewd comments made to her. And at some point, they start to disrobe her. He starts to disrobe her, Dusashan, the younger brother. And so she starts praying to the divine, to Krishna, to save her. But what she does is, first she has the cloth in her hand and she's praying. Hear this, okay? We're slightly digressing, but not. She's praying like that. And then at some point, she holds her hand up and prays while she's holding the cloth with one hand. Okay. And then at some point, she holds the cloth up with her mouth, but raises both her hands. Are you with me? Am I clear? In this moment, flash to Lord Krishna, who's sitting down having dinner with Rukmini, his other wife, or one of his wives. And just as Draupadi lets the second hand go, Lord Krishna starts to stand up in the middle of eating and runs to go. And Rukmini says, Lord, where are you going? And he says, my devotee needs me. I have to go. And she's about to say, wait, eat, something like that, like a good wife would. And he's already out. And 2 moments later, he returns back. And Rukmini says, I thought your devotee needed you. What happened? Why didn't you go? And Lord Krishna says, no, the devotee still thinks they can do it themselves, holding the cloth in the mouth. Do you understand what I'm saying? Somewhere our little mind likes to hold on to things. Somewhere, the little I, the little ego doesn't want to fully surrender, fully let go. We get clear directions. We know clearly what is the wise thing to do. We know what is correct, what is life supporting. But, you know, when you watch those cartoons when you're a kid, there's a devil and an angel. And that little devil keeps poking, saying, come on, don't give it up. Come on, hold on to it. Everything is here. This guy is growing bigger and bigger, the angel, but the little guy is still there saying, don't listen. You don't know. They don't know. You know, because the ego's job is to survive. That's what it wants to do. It doesn't want to let go, not because there's anything great to hold on to, but it doesn't have anything else that it knows. It's not willing to go to the unknown. Are we clear? So eventually Draupadi lets go, and then the Lord comes, and Dusashan keeps pulling the fabric, and it never empties, it never finishes, it keeps going. The dude gets exhausted trying to disrobe her, and then finally, you know, somebody intervenes and the story continues. Okay, let's see, where are we now?
Nahi prapashyami mamapanudhyad yachokam havapya bhuma vasapatnam riddham rajyam suranam api chadhipatyam. For even on obtaining undisputed sovereignty and an affluent kingdom on this earth and lordship over the gods, I do not see any means that can drive away the grief which is drying up my senses.
Nobody really offered him what he thinks, but anyway, we understand the point that nothing is going to get rid of this grief, this sense of loss that I feel. And again, I remind you, it is a huge loss, what he's looking at, right? Can you just imagine putting all your family in front of you and you're getting ready to now shoot? Just put yourself in that position. But it's not just pure, you know, that sense of love and light, because no love is unconditional in that state. At a certain age, between parent and child, it is, and after that, we know it becomes conditional. This is what I've been telling you from the beginning. Arjun wants all those things. There's a condition. Just don't want to kill my own people. Just not my uncle, great uncle, just not my guru, and so on. Yes? Go.
Sanjaya uvacha evam uktva ऋषिकेशं गुडाकेशः परन्तप न योत्स्य इति गोविन्दम् उक्त्वा तूष्णीं बभूवः. Sanjaya said, O king, having thus spoken to Sri Krishna, Arjuna again said to him, I will not fight, and became silent.
Now Arjuna's sort of lamenting and crying and overwhelmed. He has now finally openly and overtly said, I'm not going to do this. He had made the decision, but he made it appear like, by basing all the arguments, like he's still open to a conversation. But now he's overtly stated, I will not fight. Yes? This is where we are. You know, don't just hear this as a story. Really see, like for me, when I look at this, I think how many 100 ways and 100 times have I been in this position where I convince myself I have some clarity. I don't want to own it because of somebody's opinion, what it might be, what it might not be. And then I drag myself through so much gymnastics. And then in the end, I say, well, I'm sorry, I'm just not going to do it. I'm not doing it. Like after the fact. Yes. So it's important to put yourself into that position. What I would hope could happen, what at least has been happening for me for the last 2-3 weeks, is much more awareness of my internal mind. When I'm doing something or saying something, I become really aware, at least enough to ask the question, wait a second, where are you coming from? Are you walking the talk? Or is there something else going on? You see, anybody else notice that there's more self-reflection or the mind is becoming more internalized? This is important. Awareness, consciousness. Remember what Gurudev said. Only wisdom gives us our freedom, moves us into a sense of inner freedom, right? This is what he's talking about. Well, wisdom comes through self-awareness, through recognizing what we do and how it doesn't really serve us. Yeah? Okay. Let me hear the next one, and then we'll see if we'll talk about it or go into something else.
तमुवाच हृषीकेशः प्रहसन्निव भारत सेनयोरुभयोर्मध्ये विषीदन्तमिदं वचः. Then, O Dhritarashtra, Sri Krishna, as if smiling, addressed the following words to grieving Arjuna in the midst of the two armies. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Ashocyan Anvashocchastvam Prajnavadamscha Bhashase Gatasuna Gatasunschcha Nanushocanti Panditaha. Shri Bhagavan said, Arjuna, you grieve over those who should not be grieved for, and yet speak like the wise men do not sorrow over the dead or the living. Natvevaham jatu nasam natvam neme janadhipaha nachaiva na bhavishyamaha sarve vayamatah param. In fact, there was never a time when I was not, or when you or these kings were not. Nor is it a fact that hereafter we shall all cease to be.
Okay, we'll stop here because now he's entering into Brahmagyan, right? He's now addressing the deeper layers of Arjun emotionally and intellectually, and then with the wisdom, the highest of knowledge, poking the ego, as Gurudev said, giving some intellectual awareness and guidance, and entering into self-knowledge, right? Capital S. Okay. Question or comment. Before you ask a question, let's first hear a takeaway. What did you take away from today's session? Anyone? One, maybe two people is the most we can do. Anybody?
The takeaway for me is something that you explain. I never thought it from that angle. When we look at something as mine and that moha that kind of make you uncentered. And the biggest one is body, because we always just find ourselves saying I, and not realizing how many times that I create that different identity in my mind that I attach myself to. So it's not just limited to body, but the gender and where I am from and what my beliefs are and what my ideas are. And I never really thought it from that angle. So that was really the biggest one that wowed me today, like how I see that whole concept around that I.
Remember, this is a battlefield of life. And what is creating the battle in our life is moha, is attachment. This identity, this stuckness, what is me is mine and what is mine is me. So what is mine is me. If my body is mine, I think I am my body. Do you see that? My thoughts, my belief. If I'm stuck on my beliefs, these are my beliefs. So then I think the belief is me. I've become identified to a small ideology, which I didn't even pick up very consciously. My emotions, they're my emotions. So then someone says, how are you feeling? I'm angry. No, I have an anger emotion. I'm angry. I'm no good. I'm like this. Can you see the deep layer of moha? What is me is mine, and what is mine is me, and our entire journey, conflict in life, is preserving what is me and what is mine, which is what Arjun is going through. Yeah? Louisa, you're next.
Yes, for me, it's very similar to what Nisha said. Like when you talk about the me and mine, something inside me feels like the pain of having to let that go, the attachment. Like
But so wait
my
a minute.
boyfriend, my body, why?
But wait a minute. This is so beautiful what you just said. In the moment, there is a certain feeling of what you called pain. Some of you may have felt it as like a little, ugh. And so the ego defends either feeling pained in the loss, the grief, so to speak, or it becomes very, like Arjuna did, little bit righteous, little bit, I know better, the right and wrong. If you notice some of the faces that I saw, because I keep you all on gallery view and I keep flipping through, some of your faces, when I talk about that me and mine, you're like, yeah, but, come on, there's a kind of energy, that's strong resistance because it doesn't want to die. And that's exactly what Arjun has been doing. Are you following me? So
Yeah.
finish your thought. I didn't want to interrupt, but it was very important what you just described.
Yeah, and I think it connects very much to what Gurudev says, that like when eternal love happens, people disappear, everything. And the mind is so tricky because from my experience, the most we even latch onto the guru, like my guru. And that's even something that like sneakily the mind is saying, I have an amazing guru. Do you also want one? Like there's this sneaky thing. So the mind
Maybe
is so
some sneaky
tricky.
things are okay. Maybe there's some sneaky things are okay. But the trick is to see this, right? Louisa, what you're saying, what everyone is hearing is the whole battlefield of life is around this notion of preserving me. And me is also what's mine. Me is not just head to toe me. It's what's mine, my body. Therefore, I am the body. My emotions. Therefore, I am those emotions. My thoughts, my likes, my dislikes, my family, my job, my position, my role, my reputation. It's all around moha. The reflection here is family, but it's not. It's also my kingdom, my position, my reputation. Look at Arjuna is talking about all those me and mine. It's not just my uncle and my grandfather or my teacher. Yeah? So let's officially close. We'll just chant 3 times. And then those who need to stay on can stay back on. And those who need to drop can drop. Eyes closed. Satyam param dhimahi. Satyam param dhimahi. Satyam param धीमहि